Hi everyone, my name is Jade Calver. I own and operate Calver & Associates Canadian Immigration Services. Today we're going to be talking about COVID and its implications on immigration applications to Canada for 2020. Currently it's November 2020, so everything is current as of today. The first question I'm getting is, can I start the immigration process to Canada right now during COVID-19? The answer is yes. Immigration Canada is still accepting applications for all of its programs. There are a few changes, so things as far as processing times are taking a little bit longer. So we're really seeing applications being processed a little bit slower across the board in most categories. The only thing that is really normal, if you will, in terms of processing times are family class, so that's sponsorship applications. Everything else is taking a little bit longer, but yes, you can still submit an application to immigrate during COVID-19. The only thing that's going to be affected is the processing time of the application. A lot of my clients will ask, well, is it worth it to put in an application in right now? My answer is yes, because this puts you at the front of the queue. I'll talk about this in another video, but Immigration Canada has upped their immigration target levels for 2021. So it's really important to get your application in first so that you're processed and considered for when they start letting people back into Canada, which after the pandemic, it's going to see a significant increase and you want to have your application in first. As I said, so they are processing applications normally. They're taking longer, but they're still being accepted. The applications from within Canada are being processed as a priority. So it's really important that if you're in Canada as a temporary resident and you're applying for permanent residency, you really need to start thinking about your permanent residency and get your application in. We are seeing priority processing for applications in Canada. Over this summer, so summer 2020, we saw the Canadian Experience class, for example, just those who qualified under the Canadian Experience class being invited to apply, which, we saw a lot of people with low CRS scores being able to apply for permanent residency. So it was those people started the application process early and are now seeing approvals for permanent residency. The other update for permanent residency applications is that with COVID-19, even if you submit an application and you're unable to get a document due to COVID-19 related reasons, they will still process your application. For example, if your country is unable to give you a police certificate, they'll still process your application and then just wait until you're able to provide that document to finalize the application. Another question I get right now from my clients is Canada allowing permanent residents to travel to Canada right now? The answer depends on if and when you were approved for permanent residency. So if you have an application for permanent residency that was approved before March 18th, 2020, you are exempt from the travel restrictions and you are able to fly. If your permanent residency application was approved after March 18th, 2020, you have to either wait for approval from Immigration Canada, or if you qualify for one of the exemptions, for example, you're a spouse of a Canadian, then you are able to travel to Canada right now. This means for the most part, most of our clients right now aren't able to travel to Canada to confirm their permanent residency, with the exception being, those who meet the exceptions. So if they're in the US or if they have a spouse in Canada. We can help you if you're approved for permanent residency. If you're having trouble knowing if you're able to travel to Canada, let us know and we can help. The final question that I'm getting regarding travel to Canada during COVID-19 is, are workers, students, and visitors able to come to Canada at the moment? So again, for the most part, the rule for visitors is no, unless you have someone in Canada, so a close family member, so spouse, children, a parent. Right now, you're not able to come to Canada as a visitor. If you're coming from the US, you can come as a visitor, but for either criteria, you need to show that you're coming for a non-discretionary purpose, meaning that it has to be You have to be reuniting with family and staying longer term rather than just a simple visit. As far as workers are concerned, so most workers, as long as you have a job offer, so if it's not for an open work permit, most workers are able to come to Canada right now. So if you are applying for a work permit and you get an approval, you can fly to Canada right now. And lastly, students. So as of October 2020, Immigration Canada released a rule that the DLI, so the Designated Learning Institution that you're studying at, has to have a readiness plan, so they have to be equipped to deal with COVID-19. I'm finding that most schools as of the end of November 2020 are approved as DLIs for students to travel to Canada for. So at the moment, most students are able to travel to Canada. With this in mind, so if you are able to travel to Canada, please note that the quarantine requirement is still in effect. So this means that when you come to Canada, you will have to quarantine for 2 weeks. You need to have a place that you can tell the border officer, this is where I'm going and I will not come into contact with anybody for those 2 weeks. So it is important to be ready with that quarantine plan when you present yourself at the border. That's mandatory for anyone that's traveling to Canada at the moment. So that's everything for today as far as COVID-19 and travel regulations to Canada. If you have any questions regarding COVID-19 updates as it relates to Canadian immigration, you can contact us. We're online at calvarimmigrationservices.com.